Hey everybody, welcome back to a delayed telecast for our usual podcast. That's my fault. I've been traveling, but here I am back at home base at the Global HQ. So with me, my name is Patrick Tan, General Counsel for ChainArgos. As usual, with me every week, Jonathan Reiter for this delayed telecast of the podcast, but we try not to miss an episode as far as we can. So on this week's episode, what we're going to be talking about, Fidelity's on-chain fund filing, an interesting one. Not exactly blockchain in motion, but we're getting there. Ondo's client list, it might surprise you to see who's who on Ondo Finance's list of clients. And then Ethena Labs stablecoin MiCA license rejection. So for those of you who don't know what MiCA is, it's basically the markets and crypto assets regulation that comes out of the EU. And John's going to give us a little bit more information about that. But let's just jump straight into it. Fidelity's on-chain fund filing. John, what the hell is that about?
So Fidelity filed SEC fund filing. So it is a money market fund,
Okay.
and the fund is listed. The name is OnChain, one word, capital O, capital C. So it's the OnChain fund, which is, I guess, at some point you stop calling these names clever because there's so many clever names. It just becomes sort of par for the course. I mean, there's some, calling your fund Biddle and a HODL, whatever. Cleverness diminishing returns. Now, this is, I guess you'd imagine from the name, it's an on-chain fund.
Okay.
It's called the on-chain fund, and it's a U.S. Treasury-backed thing. And I'm going to read here from the fund documentation. So this is from the SEC fund filings. The fund's transfer agent maintains the official record of share ownership of the on-chain class in book entry form. So we'll just stop and analyze that sentence for a moment. So the share class is called on-chain.
Okay.
That's fine. Share classes are ways of owning it's funds. But the person in charge of it is maintaining the on-chain share class ownership records in book entry form. I just find that entertaining, in that they're not using a blockchain for that. Ownership of the on-chain class will also be recorded on a public blockchain, although the secondary recording of the on-chain class on a blockchain will not represent the official record of ownership. The transfer agent will reconcile the secondary blockchain transactions with the official records, at least on a daily basis. So the on-chain class uses the blockchain as a comment field and has another book entry record keeping. So this is the normal scheme. We've talked about this before, where the official records are that's all fine. I just find it amusing that because the name is clever, they're forced into these contorted sentences. The transfer agent's book entry records will constitute the official record of the fund and govern the record ownership of fund shares in all circumstances. So, okay.
I believe that's what's called double entry accounting.
Well, this is like redundant entry accounting,
Yeah.
or something, which is not quite the same as double entry.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a standard permissioned scheme.
Yep.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yep.
Usual questions around, how much this gets used and how much you're really going to learn from that. Mostly, I just find it sort of poetic, the required filings here. It's still not clear what the purpose of this is, other than, I guess, marketing or something. So we will see.
Well, I mean, as hopeful as we can be about it, maybe this is where we're getting to sort of moving in the direction, because you can't exactly, throw off all the feathers of the existing system just in case something goes wrong.
Well, as we'll come to in a second, we're looking at the Ondo customer list situation, right?
Yeah.
The question here for these whitelisted funds is who they whitelist and whether that facilitates types of transfers. And that's fine. It's just amusing to say that your on-chain records are kept in book entry form. I just found that funny. I don't know. We'll see. It's just about every major asset manager that's been talking about doing these kinds of things has these sorts of funds launched now, with differing amounts of whitelisting and flexibility in who gets whitelisted. So it's I don't know. The fees are not particularly higher, and the cost of running it's probably identical. So,
but
I guess it has to be more expensive because they're using their existing infrastructure plus this. The number of records is not large. I mean, the money market funds, these types of funds, are not super high volume things, generally speaking. So,
next bit, we're going to Ondo Finance's client list. What's Ondo Finance?
So Ondo is another platform that does a variety of tokenization things. They have some stable coins, the borrowing lending protocols, a bunch of things like that. You might want to remove the black, whatever. So what's interesting about Ondo in particular. So we talk a lot about how things might have a blacklist, a whitelist, whatever permission type list. So Ondo is consciously building an ecosystem of products. So there'll be stable coins, borrowing and lending protocols, whatever there are. And software engineering, well designed. They have a single Oracle, whatever, a single service that handles verifying that somebody has been KYC'd by Ondo. And so they are able to use their KYC, their permissioned products. So instead of Circle has a blacklist, Tether has a blacklist, for the Fidelity thing probably has a blacklist, whatever, a blacklist or has a whitelist, whatever, they've got a single service that you can look at that gives you their client list because it tells you everybody that's been KYC'd or had their KYC revoked for their service. And it even tells you what sort of level of KYC. They have some grouping facility. So what we've got here is all of the addresses that have been KYC'd by Ondo. So you can see their full client list. So they currently have on Ethereum 178 addresses KYC'd as of now, or have been added, maybe removed. This report I think has ever been added. So for example, you can see here, whoever this OpenSea user is was onboarded by Ondo Finance on May 15th, 2023. Fair enough. There's a number of others here that have more or less. So here you've got an address that was a Pax Gold, whatever holder, fine. So a lot of these are just totally anonymous, no information, or you can see that they hold a couple of small, these are, I guess, actually, yeah, number 42 USDC balance is probably a meaningful amount of money. Big user of USDY, which is unsurprising, I guess, is a related service. But you can see in here, there are a couple of addresses that have services associated with. So here we go. So Euler Finance is on the system, or something affiliated with Euler Finance. This says our tags are a little bit. Flux Finance. So Flux Finance is openly part of this setup. Flux Finance is a protocol that's providing permissionless stablecoins backed by Ondo Finance products. So they've KYC'd that. That was in January of 2023. That's fine. Frax was added. I mean, these are not necessarily recent, right? But Frax, part of the Frax ecosystem, was brought on board. And Polygon. So this is Polygon Foundation, and there's another Polygon wallet, whatever, somewhere. I don't remember. There was another substantial Polygon wallet that's in here. So this guy, you can see, this is part of the Ondo ecosystem, and it's a big holder of the BlackRock, whatever token. Maybe not hugely surprising. The Polygon Foundation, I think, had a big amount. There was a multi-sig or something that was related to Polygon. Whatever, I don't remember what it is. So it's interesting here that you can see people's customer lists. I think we've done some analysis before of sort of BitGo's customer list. In the case of BitGo, you can see that BitGo deployed service, and then you have to be able to tag who it is to figure out. Right here, they're just explicitly turning on and off wallets and telling you what level of KYC they've passed. In these cases, I think they're all one. Actually, I don't know if they have multiple groups listed. And you can see overlap and volumes and dates, and you could make these are all from earlier last year. Right. So it's interesting in that these are all going through 2024. These things were recent in 2025. So these addresses were brought on just a couple days ago, in that case, a few weeks ago, whatever it is. Right. This was just done yesterday. Okay, so this guy, whoever this is, was just KYC yesterday. You can see exactly how many clients a financial institution has and what rate they're coming online. Right. So for things that are blacklisted, you can't necessarily tell because you have no idea how many people are using it to the blacklist. You've got active permissionless sort of token transfer holders, but not protocol known things. And this is nice in that it's to be shared across the ecosystem. There are other similar services we'll be looking at from other providers. This is a very simple way of doing it because they've set up their own service. They're pushing these events out there. There's a whole much more complicated Ethereum attestation service thing that some folks use. So you can see who they're using. In this case, what I was particularly looking for is to see what types of stablecoin ecosystems they were going to interact with. Because Flux is not surprising, but Euler and Frax maybe would be a little bit more surprising. So you'll be able to see. Hopefully, we will see these types of events and sort of organizational stuff around each financial institution that starts to do things, not putting it per token per product, just clearing it would be nice. It's easier to keep track of. Could make it interchangeable, right? So we've criticized the Chainalysis Sanctions Oracle for being late before, and that's another example of the difference between whitelist and blacklist. because they're a blacklist system, effectively, they can be late, and the worst thing that happens is you take money from a terrorist, which is not great. If this thing is late, people can't use the system. Right? So it's the difference between, people are calling you because they can't get into whatever the service is, as opposed to, the web page doesn't work the way it used to, and you just file a support ticket. Right? So this direction is more likely to be accurate more quickly, whereas the blacklist one may just be late. Just late.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see that, I guess. It's a difference in, there's an asymmetry in how you would look at things.
Yeah. One is proactive as opposed to reactive, I guess.
And you generally get better service when you're denying someone's ability to do something they just signed up for.
Yeah.
As opposed to taking away someone's ability to do something that they didn't ask to have it removed, right? It's an asynchronous thing.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Moving on, finally, Ethena's MiCA license rejection. No big surprises here.
You're the MiCA expert, right? So the Ethena USDe is a yield-bearing algorithmic stablecoin.
Yeah.
Is that eligible for registration as an asset reference token or an e-money token?
Not under the definition of MiCA.
Yeah. So it can't be really an asset reference token because, correct me if I'm wrong, this is a simplification of the rules, but it has to be a clean, here's an asset, here's a token representing an asset.
It also has to be on the list of approved assets.
Oh, okay.
There's a list of approved assets.
But this thing doesn't cleanly link any asset. It's sort of nebulously linked to dollars, but there's no backing dollars, so it's not eligible.
It's not.
And it pays interest, so it couldn't be.
And also it's not, there's just tons of reasons why this wouldn't qualify, but one of the most obvious glaring ones would be like, are you... Okay, give an example. Can you join the Jewish club? Are you Jewish? No, you can't join the club. Nothing against you, but that's in the name. It's the Jewish club. So one of the things about MiCA is that you have to be a type of financial institution to issue these things, or you have to do the issuance in conjunction with a financial institution. Okay. This is not.
Okay. So you need a partner bank, you need a clearly identified backing asset, and in the case of e-money tokens, you can't pay any interest. I don't think asset reference tokens.
No, you can't pay any interest.
Yeah. Right. So, okay, so they're clearly out of bounds for applying for getting these types of licenses. The whole regime doesn't admit or even really contemplate. It contemplates, and there's outright bans on algorithmic stablecoins. But okay, now they applied for a license, which they're entitled to do, I guess, in Germany. And the regulator rejected their application publicly.
With extreme prejudice.
And, they have an entity in Germany that's responsible for a small amount of activities, and it can't transact anymore. What I found entertaining here, I think, same response, there was no way this was ever going to get approved, and it must have been communicated to them that this would not get approved because it wasn't eligible. It is as bad as whatever the driver's license minimum age is where you live. Take 3 years off that and fill out an application. Right? They will tell you not to bother to submit it, and if you insist, they will reject it. Right?
And then... once they reject it, then they'll have a deeper dive into the stuff that you've been doing. Have you been driving this car around all this time?
I could try to join a women's only gym, right? They're going to reject my application.
They're going to
advise me in advance not to submit it. So their lawyer and other parts of the operation took to Twitter and whatnot to complain about how unfair this was and how regulators normally ask you to withdraw the application. It may literally be true that they were never asked to withdraw the application, but they were surely told the application would be rejected. I imagine that the regulator didn't enjoy having their time wasted by repeated phone calls.
If you read the instructions on the box, it says you can only do this if you have that, and they didn't have that.
Yeah. So people complain about... Actually, this one's EEA wide, right? It's not just EEA, it's EEA wide. People complain about European regulations, in quotes, a lot, and they are voluminous. There are a lot of them, but individual regulations themselves tend to be quite readable, even if the book is gigantic. This one's not super, super long and complicated.
No, MiCA's pretty accessible.
The U.S. proposed stablecoin bills
that's harder
to understand.
that's hard to
now, again, we're not saying there aren't a lot of European regulations. We're just saying the individual regulations themselves tend to be quite straightforward. So surely anybody could have sat down and read this. There is maybe a little bit of an American versus European-y thing here, where in the U.S. you can submit an application for something that's not quite right and moan about it, and they might find a way to accept it anyway. That is not the way the continental European system works at all. So,
it's a civil law system, right? If they've codified it very comprehensively to their mind.
I don't even mean the strict legal system. I just mean you talk to the regulator a long time in advance, and that's the end of the conversation.
And making a spurious application is just going to piss them off.
Yeah. So it is. I mean, clearly it's bad form if they didn't receive advance notification that they should probably not continue with this. Because, it is fair that most applications for things don't get rejected, they get withdrawn. They must have been told this has no chance. And maybe this is an American versus European communication style thing, right? You watch sometimes, particularly because it's all English, right? You see stuff in the UK where Americans will be told what clearly in British English means this is a catastrophic idea, stop, go away, don't ever do this. And it's interpreted as, maybe we should think about it and come back with a new proposal. And the second meeting is much more entertaining. It may be a bit of that.
I mean, it seems to me that the purpose of obtaining that rejection is to moan about it.
Yeah, I agree. That certainly feels like a 60% plus probability as to what's going on here.
And if that's the case, I mean, that might work in the U.S., but Europeans don't tend to appreciate that so much, as a general rule.
Yeah.
So
this kind of black and white stuff also. Although I don't know, there's stuff I thought.
If you read MiCA, you know that there's no way USDe would have ever satisfied. If I'm not wrong, USDe also doesn't really tout itself as being a stablecoin.
No, they acknowledge that there are a wide variety of risks. Their documentation is far more honest than their disingenuous whinging here.
I don't understand it. I just don't see what the point is. I mean, like you've already said quite clearly, which I appreciate, that you're not even an aspirational stablecoin. You kind of just said that you're not really a stablecoin.
Well, it's an algorithmic stablecoin with no specific backing asset, with a wide variety of yield-generating strategies and delta-neutral futures positions. It's the way they describe. So, that's not...
That could not be further from the definition of what an ART and EM...
Well, I mean, look, it's closer to the definition than UST was, but all right, fair enough.
Anyway, on that note, thanks for tuning in. Sorry about the delayed podcast, but we'll get back to you again pretty soon with the next episode. So that's the plus and that's the upside.
Yeah, we should do some Ethena data also. We haven't done that for 6 months.
Sure. I'll talk to you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.